Some would say short-term rentals are crashing. I would say we're in the midst of a mean reversion. What does that mean? Stay tuned for more.
Cashflow Savannah, where the dreamers dwell. Get your hustle on, ring that wealth bell. From the dirt to the gold, every story's untold. Cashflow Savannah, where ambition takes hold. Started with $1, stretched it to a mile. Every setback just to settle for style. Stacking paper, vision clearer than glass.
Hello, I'm Julie Gates. I am a longtime short-term rental investor right here in Savannah, Georgia. I'm also a property manager through Sid Was Here, and I am a team lead for Team 912 right here in Savannah. I love investment real estate, and I sell a lot of short-term rentals. I help buy and sell short-term rentals here in Savannah. So interestingly enough, I've had a lot of clients push back lately because things are tough, okay? The market is changing. It's been a slow year. I had a great conversation with a very sophisticated buyer on Friday. And I love working with sophisticated buyers, and I'm not afraid of the hard questions. And one thing he said to me is, I understand about the taxes. He really needs the tax deduction that a short-term rental would bring him. But he said, I'm concerned because I'm looking at numbers and I'm seeing revenue come down. Why do I want to buy a short-term rental when the market is going down? Well, unfortunately, he's looking at it the wrong way. We are in the midst of a mean reversion, but the good thing is that we know why the numbers are reverting back to the mean. What was the catalyst for this mean reversion? The fact is, you and I were both there. COVID-19 hit. Back in 2020, I personally had over 30 short-term rentals right here in Savannah. Some of them were medium-term rentals. Some of them were true short-term rentals. Some of them were what I call a hybrid, okay? I was going hard for this asset class. Then COVID-19 hit. That hit everywhere, not just Savannah. And it was really, really scary, okay? And overnight, one of my clients that I was managing for, lost $55,000 in revenue just because we shut down right before St. Patty's Day. And St. Patrick's Day is the money weekend for Savannah, Georgia. We have the third or fourth biggest St. Patrick's Day celebration. And the fact that they shut us down on March 13, it was incredibly painful, okay? But COVID-19 was our catalyst, okay? You know it happened. You know exactly what happened. This isn't a mystery to anyone. I was here. I lived through it. I probably lost all my hair, but I did make it, okay? So when COVID-19 hit, Georgia shut down for 30 days. The rest of the world actually shut down for much longer. But after 30 days, Governor Kemp opened up Georgia. Okay, we were back in business. We were allowed to do short-term rentals. Tourism went crazy. And everywhere we had the same phenomenon. Florida did the same thing, other beach markets. So when things opened back up, all these people that were stuck in apartments somewhere or stuck in big cities, they couldn't go out. They wanted to come to beach communities. They wanted to spread out. So Savannah boomed. Okay. One of the best things that happened during the COVID-19, shutdown was that millions and millions of people that had never even heard the term short-term rental and had no clue what website Airbnb even meant, they now know what it is. It was a big boom worldwide for this asset class. Before 2020, I was kind of one of the only games in town. I mean, we had short-term rentals, don't get me wrong, but as far as like being an investor and like growing wealth through short-term rental, and I mean multiple, making money hand over fist, it was awesome. So everyone flooded into town. They were willing to pay more and more. I had like a 3-month waiting list at one point. Like it was fantastic. Okay. The money was really good. So 2020, we came back hard. And for the rest of the year, we did well. 2021, we were crushing. 2022, 2023 was really the peak of short-term rentals. Okay, the revenue was off the chain. And as revenue went up, guess what? Price point went up right with it. People started going, hey, I can sell my short-term rental for 20, 30% more than I could have 6 months ago. So they did. So now we're in 2026. We have all these investors that bought in 2023 and 2024, which was arguably the peak of this just astronomical climb for the asset class. Unfortunately, they bought on the front side of the curve. We peaked in 2023. 2024, we start to see the revenue decline. And 2025, it declined even further, unfortunately. But it's simply a market correction. You look at any asset class, and I mean any asset class, you're going to see these peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. And as an investor, it is your job not to buy as the property goes up. You're there to buy as it's coming down or it's at the bottom, okay? That's the most important point, is to buy low, rent high. And then if you're going to sell, sell high. So the people that sold out in 2022, 2023, 2024, they did very well. But now in 2026, we have opportunity. Okay. So that's the thing to keep in mind. Even though you see revenue going down, it doesn't mean the whole asset class is dead. It just means it's reverting back to the mean. Now, during the COVID shutdown, I freaked out. I went to bed for 3 days. I thought I was done. I had all this debt, I had all these rentals. The president or someone, I can't remember who announced it, but they said, hey, guess what? You don't have to pay rent. And P.S., you don't have to pay your mortgage. Like they were trying to make people be okay with sitting home. And I was like, I'm done. If no one pays rent and I can't pay my mortgage, I'm just out. So I went to bed for 3 days. And then I realized that when things get hard, you have to go harder. And I got out of bed and I said, if I'm going down, I'm going to go down with more real estate, not less. So when I realized that I just had to just put on my big girl pants and get out of bed and that this is really where the money was made, I went out, I went shopping during the shutdown. And even a little bit after, I was still shopping for real estate because you know what? I was an investor in the 08, 09 crash. I had a good bit of real estate then. And I freaked out. I put my hands over my pockets and I did not spend money for probably 8 years. I was so scared. Okay. I watched a lot of people go out under during 08, 09. I actually knew this very, very, very wealthy couple and they ended up moving in with her parents during 09. And I was completely traumatized by that. Okay. So when COVID hit, I had learned my lesson because I had missed down on a big piece of the market back in the '09 downturn. I didn't really start buying again until 2015, 2016, and I missed about 4 years there where I could have gotten some sick deals. So once I realized that, I said, you know what? I have a brand new line of credit sitting at zero, and I went shopping and I almost doubled my portfolio in 2020 because I went hard for every price. And people were pretty much giving away their real estate at that point. Like I went to several people that had bad tenants inside and they just wanted out. And I said, look, add 2 zeros to what they're paying in rent. And that's my offer. And I'll take it. No questions asked. So I got some really killer deals during COVID. And sure enough, the world came back. The whole world didn't end just like we felt like it would, right? Real estate came back. And now I still own all of those units. And today they're cash flowing very nicely. So right now, again, this isn't quite as dramatic, but we do have this mean reversion. I want to give you another example. Also during COVID, I don't know if you remember this, but their oil actually went into the negative and people were paying people to take away their barrels of oil. They could not sell it. This is, to my knowledge, never happened before. I don't know. I'm not super dialed into oil. But my husband and I saw this and we went hard for oil stocks, okay? During the shutdown, when oil was going negative and they were pretty much giving it away, we looked at all of the oil stocks and the company that we liked the most was Chevron. We looked at their financials. This is all public data, okay? This is not insider trading. We went to Schwab.com. We went to Yahoo Finance. We went to Google. We said, let's look at all the oil companies. Which company do we think is in the best shape? And we said Chevron. That's where we're going to put our money is on Chevron. We bought Chevron stock when they were trading for nothing. Because you know why? Because we believed in the asset class. We said, yes. Are there EVs? Yes. Are they giving away oil right now? Yes. But is it going to come back? Absolutely. So we went hard for Chevron stock. Sure enough, we bought it for very low. I can't remember the numbers. I'm sorry, but I'm not here to lie to you, but I'm just here to tell you general facts. I don't have the actuals. So we bought Chevron stock. Sure enough, within a year, the stock, I think, had gone way up. I can't remember the numbers again. I don't want to give percentages. And we sold. We bought really low and we sold really high. And we were very, very happy with that purchase. If there's one thing I know, it's the Savannah real estate market. And it's also very solid. We have the best port in the world. We have a great job growth, doing a little bit of a mean reversion right now. But that doesn't mean that the asset class itself is terrible. It actually means you have to understand the asset class, know when to get in, and also know when not to get in. So right now with us having this mean reversion in short-term rentals, there's an opportunity. People are actually willing to come to the table for less. In fact, I was just on the phone with a buyer who has a 1031 exchange going on, and we ran the numbers and I can see what people paid for it, right? It's public information. And one of the short-term rentals that I like the best because of the amenities, because of the potential for amenities, because of the potential for decor and because of the crazy good location. And I'm looking at what they're trying to list it for now. They've been dropping that price. You can tell these guys are tired. They're tired landlords. Okay. Short-term rentals are not easy. You deal with a lot of complaints. You deal with a lot of, redo the decor or bring new towels or, oh my gosh, we don't like the sheets, you name it. But these guys have a really solid short-term rental that I was in on Friday, and they're willing to sell it for even less than what they bought it for. So that means that they're willing to come to the table with basically the agent fees. There are so many opportunities here in Savannah right now where people are just sick of it. They're done. Your typical real estate, your typical retail investor, they're just not as dialed into the charts. And they got in too high, they got excited, and now they just went out and they're willing to give the property away to do it. If you can cover their debt and just get them out, they're willing to do it. So I've got buyers coming in and getting decent prices on short-term rentals, which 2 to 5 years ago, you would have never seen. Okay. Previously, if a property in Savannah had that short-term rental certificate attached, you were not going to get a discount. In fact, they knew that it was going to go into multi-offer situation very frequently. I've been in this asset class for years. I've never seen an opportunity like I see right now. Okay. So I did prepare some numbers for you. I do want to talk to you about this mean reversion. It is really important. So if you're a sophisticated investor, fact check me. Okay. This is important. But as an investor and an agent and a property manager, I've seen this and I'm really excited about what I'm seeing in this market. And I'm encouraging you, when it gets hard, go harder. That's when you're going to see the best results. First thing I want to say, 2021 and 2022 were our biggest outlier years. Okay, keep that in mind. So our market is normalizing. It is not what I would consider collapsing by any means. In fact, Savannah is going nowhere but north. All right. The data looks negative because COVID had an unusually high boost to revenue. Okay. We were doing 17% year over year increases. That's not typical. It's typically 3 to 6. So you understand we took all that in a couple of years. And of course, it's very natural to have this market cycle revert back to where it should be normally. So that's all we're seeing right now. It's not even really a market correction. All right. We did have an increase in supply in Savannah, and we got about a 7 to 8%. But we're starting to see that normalize. Okay. All the time, I will see properties in regular neighborhoods that cannot be licensed short-term rentals. And I'll see this house and they'll have luggage racks and different things. And then there'll be signs everywhere. Hey, watch your step and light switch for this. It clearly was not a long-term rental. They were clearly running illegal short-term rentals, things like that. These things happen when money looks really good. So we're seeing right now, people are selling out and just saying, oh, I don't want to deal with it, whatever. So we're seeing, again, a reversion in the inventory. The great thing is that my favorite market is Savannah's historic district. I manage in Tybee, I manage in Pooler, Richmond Hill, all around, but the historic district is where you're going to see the highest average daily rate, the highest occupancy, and the highest revenue. You're also going to pay the highest sales price, but that's where most tourists want to go first. Okay. They're going to book the historic district. They want the walkability. They want to drink. They want to go to all the festivities, go across the river to the convention center. And then the ancillary markets fill up afterwards. Like a short-term rental in Pooler is going to do well. I own and manage there right now. They're going to stay full, but your average daily rate there is going to be like 78 to 108 bucks a night. Whereas in the historic district, you're talking 392 a night. Okay. That's a big difference. So just keep in mind that the highest risk also brings the highest reward. Savannah's historic district also was the #1 A-grade market for AirDNA back in 2025. So we will get to those numbers next. But in Savannah, our occupancy on average, okay, and I only work with above average properties now. I'm very choosy about what I pick up under management, but on average, 58% occupancy. Nationwide short-term rental average occupancy, 48%. So Savannah trends 10% higher than all the other markets in the US. So we have a very, very strong 11-month tourist market. That's a fact. Fact check me on AirDNA. We have an average nightly rate of 285 to 290. Okay. That's a little lower because the average short-term rental in Savannah is 2 bedrooms or lower. But if you can get a 3 and 4 bedroom home in Savannah, you are going to juice that significantly. Okay. Our 4-bedroom units, and these are well decorated. These are not blah units. They're ranging from 800 to 1200 a night because we specialize in luxury. So a lot of times I'm telling my buyers, hey, find the best location and let's find the best opportunity. And I can help you identify where can we add amenities And where can we add decor that's going to pay for itself over and over and over again? Your decor and your photos are going to be huge for your average daily rate. So the average rental revenue per listing, 38,000 to 40,000 in Savannah, mostly because those are smaller units. So again, the other thing that we have going on in Savannah is that our convention center has doubled. It was a 4-year process. We're now able to host, twice as large conventions. In fact, and they're starting to come in. It did take a little bit to get that going, but our convention center is huge. So we already have the festivals. We already have the beautiful homes set around 26 squares filled with moss and old live oak trees. It's so beautiful in Savannah. People want to come here just because it's beautiful. But because our convention center has now doubled, we've also added the end market arena. In fact, last weekend, we had this giant volleyball tournament that filled up everything. Plus, we had a massive concert the same weekend. So myself in the short-term rental world, all the hotels, we were thrilled. We were booked. Okay. We get a lot of snowbirds that want to come here. You just have a market where people want to come here year round. Slowest part that we see is typically between Thanksgiving and Christmas. People just don't have a lot of, extra income for travel. But other than that, Savannah is an 11-month market. So we're seeing just very, very strong demand. The other thing that we're seeing here in Savannah, which tells you a lot, is that they are building new hotels. We're getting our first Ritz-Carlton in Savannah. Do you think the Ritz-Carlton just comes to Savannah willy-nilly? Or do you think they did years of research on our occupancy, our revenue? One of our most beautiful 5-star hotels, it's called the Bardo. It used to be called Mansion on Forsyth. It was Mansion on Forsyth as long as I've known it. It is a 5-star hotel. It is in a sick location. And these guys bought it, took it down for 6 months, and then made it even better. So we're seeing bigger, better, faster, stronger hotels identifying this market. They're already doing the research for you, and we're getting some really big name hotels in Savannah. Well, guess what? Not everyone is going to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, okay? That's not who we're competing with by any means with a short-term rental. This is a different guest typically than someone that's going to the Ritz-Carlton. But the fact that you know that Marriott is doing their homework before they even start to look for real estate, that tells you a lot, okay? That tells you how strong this market is. These guys are huge on future projections, and they're doing that research for you. So as you see these things coming in, you know that this is a very strong market. Really big guys with a lot more money than you and me, they're seeing the possibility here and they're investing. And so if you can get some of these short-term rentals in great locations right now when we're in a little bit of a dip, that is really to add to your benefit. And it's a great time to add to your portfolio. The tax deductions are great as well. The big, beautiful bill came in. We have so many opportunities for you to take down one of these short-term rentals and get a significant tax write-off against active income. So if you're a high earner with a W-2, you can literally buy a property, get a big tax refund, and then we'll help you so that the guest pays off the rest of the mortgage for you, okay? You can have a really great asset in a great market for not a whole lot of cash out of pocket. And what cash does come out of pocket, it's going to be a tax write-off for you. You can have a really great place for your family to stay and have a great tax deduction all at one time. Some other data for you. A big thing that we're seeing here in Savannah is that we're getting more and more group travel. Okay, part of that's the convention center, part of that's all the activities that are coming in, and part of that is just the Visit Savannah. They've been really advertising for that, and we're just really proud of it. The other great thing that's happening is that interest rates are coming down. We're now in the high fives. For the best mortgages I've seen are in the high fives, maybe low sixes for an investor loan. But if Savannah is more than 2 hours away from your primary residence, you can buy this short-term rental as a second home. And that's going to give you a very competitive interest rate. Okay. So there are so many great ways to save money in that if you can get it for less, if you can get it with a lower APR, I can also help you, with insurance costs, things like that. Like we have a lot of different vendors that are competing for your business. We're here to help you juice those numbers. So any buyers that work with myself, Team 912, we're going to help you figure that out and have a really good idea of what's the revenue today and what is our projection on the revenue tomorrow. Because with Sid was here, I've been doing this a long time and we know what the highest amenities are sought after here in Savannah. And we're going to help you find those and find a house where you can put those in if it doesn't have those already. Okay. I really understand cash flow and I will absolutely help you do that as well. The great thing about it is that I just want you to realize that short-term rentals are not dead, especially here in Savannah. They're definitely normalizing, but it just creates such a great opportunity for you to get into this asset class. 2, 3 years from now, you're going to have higher average daily rates. You're going to have paid a significant amount towards your principal payment, and you're going to be cash flowing. Like typically year one is going to be your lowest amount of cash flow. And then year two, it gets better. And years 3 and 4 is when it really starts to sing. Okay. You're no longer putting money into the property. It's stabilized. Year one is tough. We're always going to want you to buy a great rental. Almost always, we're going to want you to put some money into it. And that money that you spend on the decor is so well spent. That decor will really last you. If you go to Airbnb and go to Savannah or go to whatever your favorite market is, and you start scrolling, you start to see that a lot of the listings are just so blah. Some investors are catching on to that, but many are not. And so at Sid Was Here, we love to get these units and we want to redecorate them immediately because we know that the decor plus the location plus the amenities are going to really help juice your return on investment. Okay. It's so important for me to say that. Chandler actually just redecorated one, and I know we're going to talk about it later, but the photos are just night and day. The listing photos are so awful. And I would beg to tell you that most likely we got such a good deal on this home was because the revenue was so bad. Well, why was the revenue so bad? Was it because the market was softening? It was probably because of the decor. And when the guests can choose out of multiple listings, they're going to choose the prettiest one. Okay. Why would you stay in grandma's attic when you can stay at a short-term rental with an amazing theme, with an amazing decor, with great reviews, and a super host managing it? Okay. That's a really big deal. So we really understand how to juice the revenue on these short-term rentals. So if you're on the fence about buying a short-term rental, I really want to encourage you to really understand what's actually going on. And it's really easy to freak out. Okay. I get it. It's a lot of money. And every time I get something under contract myself, I get scared. In fact, I'm under contract on a short-term rental myself and I'm scared, but I have every faith in this market and I know exactly what I'm going to do with the property and how I'm going to get those rates up. So if you're serious about buying in Savannah, I hope that you'll reach out. If you go to team912.com, you can get on our buyers list there. You're going to get assigned to an agent. We will help you. I'm involved in every transaction, myself plus another agent. We're all investors. And I just encourage you to keep in mind that there's a very different scenario when you think market crash versus mean reversion. Both things happen, but the great thing about the asset class of real estate is that real estate typically does not have this massive crash. It's a very slow market cycle. Okay. If you look at the charts, things go up rather slowly and then they go down rather slowly, with the exception of really big things like COVID-19 that shot us into the stratosphere. I hope understanding the background gives you a lot of encouragement and knowledge that this asset class is going nowhere and this market is definitely going nowhere. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope you'll stay tuned to Cashflow Savannah. We're always going to keep it real. We're always going to try to bring the data. And I hope that you'll stay tuned for more information. I will see you next time.
Fields of green, seeds of sweat I sow, running numbers, watch the cash trees grow. Dream big, work hard, no limit to the sky. Savannah.